We are starting to see a shift in the availability of places for people to hunt who don't have a lot of money.
Hunting's not keeping up, and that's why we should be concerned. I can be pessimistic about a lot of things. That's one thing I'm not going to be pessimistic about.
The neighbors want the deer killed, the insurance companies want the deer killed, and the people want some backstraps. So why would you complicate that?
They've got a huge diversion nowadays with all these screens in front of them.
Well, I approve of hunting, except for those guys who just go out there to shoot an animal and, put its head on their wall.
I think it's going to be okay.
I think overall, a big factor is our population is changing from a rural population to an urban population. They have no direct connection to hunting, where their food comes from, what the real wild world is about. Mother Nature's cruel.
The only people that say we can allow the wolves and the mountain lions and the grizzly bears to run amok are people that don't live where they will run amok. Isn't that selfish? I live on the desert, but I forbid you to make a dam on your raging whitewater rapids. How soulless, how selfish, how greedy. And that's what happens when you leave the earth, the exodus from the farms and the agricultural lifestyle, from rural America to urban America. All of a sudden, the concrete and glass and metal, it becomes an insulation factor, insulating you from an earthly life.
They've got a huge diversion nowadays with all these screens in front of them, specifically the smartphone, but laptops, 65-inch flat screen. They can just do so many other things and get involved in all this other virtual reality and not really try hunting.
And again, I could wax poetic about that for eternity, but the ultimate compliment is that guy's down to earth. Boy, Ted, your son is really grounded. What do those terms mean? Probably that he gets his hand full of dirt.
This is where it all begins.
We just need to tell people, especially young hunters, but whether it's women, young men, old men, young kids, this is where your food comes from. And if you want organic, real food.
Now, if you want to play guitar like that, you gotta eat a lot of
Venison is the real deal.
Deer and Deer Hunting is brought to you by
stoners, hippies, and scammers created the ultimate ripoff called Animal Rights. And they played on not just emotions, but disconnected from reality emotions. In other words, people who live in the city didn't realize that their veal was living and breathing recently. So within the realm of such abject ignorance, people pulled off the carpetbagger scam that if you donate to us, we'll save some puppies. And they've never saved any puppies. And they called that that fell under the scam umbrella as conservation.
And the conversation usually goes like this. Well, I approve of hunting, except for those guys who just go out there to shoot an animal and, put its head on their wall or, put its antlers on their wall. That's how it kind of goes, right? When we talk about trophy hunting. And if you extrapolate that over to people who are big game hunters, especially that go to Africa and some places like that, oh my gosh, those trophy hunters, they're only over here to, to satisfy their bloodthirst and their ego and to kill something so they have a trophy that they can put in their house. Me personally, I'm a hunter. I've been my whole life. I've traveled for the past 3 decades to 24 states, 3 provinces. I've met literally thousands of other hunters along the way. I have never met one person, honest to God, that only goes out there to shoot an animal to put its head on their wall. I don't. It doesn't exist.
The real joy of being out there is just experiencing nature, seeing the sunrise, knowing that you can hike 3 miles into the woods and set up a tree stand and wait there all day for a whitetail buck that may or may not show up, but yet you're enjoying everything about it. The squirrels in the woods, seeing a gurgling creek there and just watching as the water flows by and watching again at the end of the day as the sun sets.
What clouds it? What clouds it is they see taxidermy, they see pictures on social media, maybe some unscrupulous behavior on social media, which we should talk about. But if you go to the whole trophy hunting mentality, yes, we have trophy hunting books. We have record books. Is there ego in hunting? Yes, there's ego in everything. But if you look back at the history of those things, the history of record keeping was to honor the animals. That actually goes back to Teddy Roosevelt. Who was a big proponent and founder of the Boone and Crockett Club. People think of the Boone and Crockett Club as, well, that's just a bunch of old white guys who, love to put their ego up there and say they killed X amount of animals with X amount of inches. That's not what that was about. The Boone and Crockett Club was a conservation organization that was started to help preserve and conserve wildlife habitat and wildlife in America. And as a result of that, how they showed it to the public then was, look at these magnificent animals that we are producing here in America because of conservation. The deer have to die. And hunters, whether you like it or not, that's your responsibility. Certainly don't want the government doing it for me. I'm certainly not paying them to do it when I can do it myself for free with a Matthews bow and Easton arrow. But you don't be in their face about it. If it's a non-hunter, educate them.
I would not back down because they tried to make me back down. And that's your biggest mistake, because I know truth, logic, and common sense as a guy in the swamp. You're not going to tell me anything about the swamp from your office. I'm the swamp guy. You just shut up and maybe follow me around for a day. Then we can have an intelligent conversation about the swamp. Until then, just lock your door and make believe.
My hope is that hunting is going to be bigger and brighter than ever. And some of this may come with some bad news. Some of it comes with some good news. The bad news is, hey, economic downturns, tough times, people are going to resort to hunting, finding their own game, filling their own freezers, And that's good and bad, but it could drive hunting participation up. The other thing is the younger generation in their late teens, all the way up to 30, maybe even 40 years of age, they've got a different view of the world. They're thinking green, they're thinking clean, they're thinking we've got to save the earth. I'm thinking the same thing, but they see it just a little bit differently. So instead of going to the market and buying beef, a lot of them are turning to venison, waterfowl, pheasant, squirrel, rabbit to fill their freezer. And that's good, because if they're out there hunting and putting stuff in the freezer, they're buying hunting licenses, they're paying taxes on hunting gear, and they're supporting hunting, and they are going to pass that on to the next generation. And I think that's where we're going to see hunting going. It's not necessarily going to be looking for the biggest rack anymore. And again, that's good. But it could be looking for the biggest, fattest doe to put in your freezer that's going to save you a little money and give you the best eating organic protein on the planet.
So my hope is, I'm 73, I keep saying I want at least 25 more opening days. And I got buddies who are in their 90s, they still hunt. And I got grandkids that love it. And I think it's going to be okay. But hunters have got to be registered, they've got to vote, and they've got to put pressure on their elected employees to get counterproductive regulations off the books and to make hunting, fishing, and trapping as attractive and accessible as possible to end the attrition, enhance the recruitment and retention.
We need as many hunters as we can find. Recruit? Sure, recruit until you're blue in the face. Retain, I say, is more important. Retain those people who are getting older, excuse my French, who say, you know what, screw it, I am sick of this. I'm sick of fighting other people on public land. I am sick and tired of my neighbors browbeating me for shooting a, quote, 2-year-old. Shame on you. That's one thing that this whole APR thing, QDM thing, ruined in American deer hunting. You say it like it's some kind of insult. Oh, nice 2-year-old you shot, Schmidt. I just got that the other day. You know what? I laugh. Because that doesn't bother me anymore. What bothers me is the ignorance of that person. Because they grew up listening to all the garbage that was fed to them on social media, on television, by guys who are pounding their chest, thinking they somehow are some kind of man because they have to be that way. Small percentage. But the squeaky wheel gets the attention, right? My final thought here. You know, the Cree, what did they do? They didn't mount deer. They took a buck's head and antlers and they propped it into the crotch of a tree or a rock outcropping or somewhere up high so that, you know, that buck could see the sunrises and sunsets, and they thought that brought him good luck. I'm not saying you have to be religious about it or think that there's some great spirit involved with it. Just understand that you as a hunter, you are grounded, unlike anybody walking in North America. You are staying connected to the earth.
Why am I doing this? I don't have to do this. Why am I out in snowstorms, sitting under a cliff trying to start a fire in sub-zero temperatures?
To learn how to read the bird songs and the change in barometer without calling the weatherman and feeling the front coming in. We're radical to connect with the earth.
You hunt for you. Got him! Yes! If it makes you happy, be happy and own that happiness.
It's too in-depth to even explain, but I gotta be there.
And that's what it's about.
Deer and Deer Hunting is brought to you by
You know, when we're talking about hunting, recruitment, and retention, it all has to do with three things: comfort, convenience, and accessibility. When I'm talking about comfort, a nice blind obviously is going to be really going to be helpful to get that person to want to stay there and sit the time that's required before deer show up in your field. Convenience, you want to have a convenient, want to have a nice walking trail. You know, we think hardcore and, you know, deer smelling us and all that type of thing. For a first time hunter, they might be thinking, I don't want to get ticks on me walking through the high grass. You might dismiss that, and you shouldn't, because those little things add up to that experience. Accessibility, that's getting to and from that blind without spooking deer, making it nice and easy, and that's what you want to do to keep that hunter happy and continuing. Let me show you how I have this spot set up. You know, these types of blinds are great for retaining hunters, because let's face it, when you get older, your knees, your hips, your back, everything starts hurting, and it doesn't take long until you don't want to be sitting up in that tree stand anymore. If it is a tree stand. I mean, I know ladder stands are comfortable, but these nice semi-permanent blinds, this will retain a hunter. It's comfortable. I mean, look at all the space in here. It's quiet. I can come in here. I could bring a thermos of coffee. That's what you have to think about when you're trying to keep an older hunter in the game. And I've done it many times. And let me tell you, they used to talk about hunters falling off the map at about age 55. That's no longer the case. I know many 75, 80, 85, even 90 plus year old hunters who are still hunting thanks to some of this type of technology. And let's talk about the chair. You gotta have a comfortable chair. I like a chair, especially when I'm setting up a blind for an older hunter, even myself, something with armrests, because I can just kind of wedge myself in there. It's not like I'm sitting on a little platform. I mean, we talk about the pizza chairs, you know, on those hang-on stands. You're not sitting in one of those stands for very long if you're 60 years old or older. So you got to think about those things if you want to retain a hunter. It's about making the experience comfortable. The more comfortable you can make that experience, the longer they're going to be able to sit out in the field and enjoy it. And it doesn't really matter if you see deer, because if you're enjoying the sights, the sounds, everything that goes with it, that's hunting, and that's going to keep us coming back and extending years to our hunting lifetime.